This episode of WDW Today is being sponsored by MEI and Mouse Fan Travel. And certainly with summer upcoming and everyone planning their trips for the rest of this year, it makes sense to maybe have a little friend, not even a friend, a partner in planning your next trip to Walt Disney World. Someone who knows the ins and outs of Walt Disney World and is going to help you plan your next trip and make it that much easier on yourself. MEI and Mouse Fan Travel is that partner, and they can provide the services for you to help plan your next trip to Walt Disney World. Visit them online at www.mousefantravel.com.
This is Walt Disney World Today. Give us 5 minutes and we'll give you the world.
It's Wednesday, April 22nd, 2009, and this is episode 554 of WDW Today. I'm Matt Hotchford from StudioCentral.com, which is actually celebrating its 7th anniversary today, on the day exactly, so wow. Yay me. Also on today's show is Mike Newell of Mouse World Radio. Hi, Mike.
Hey, happy, congratulations, happy anniversary.
Thank you, Mike. And also joining us on today's show is Mike Scope, back from Regions Unknown, a senior feature writer and blogger for allears.net. Mike, how are the Neither Regions?
Well, Matt, all I can say is that a long time ago, I made me a rule. Let people do what they want.
Come on. Give me something hard here. That's John Wayne in The Great Movie Ride.
Very good. Well, that's from the A-list.
Well, on today's show, it's Wednesday, and we're answering the best listener questions we can come up with, or in this case, the questions that we haven't answered at all. Starting with the oldest ones first. So let's start with an email from Craig Duncan of the United Kingdom, better known as Disney_CJD at www.com. Hi, Matt Newell, Len the Big Toe, Scopa, and She's So Lovely Annette. You kind of helped me with ways to make my 10th wedding anniversary special on July 31st this year, 09, just in case you are late. I am definitely going to be going to Hoop-de-Doo in the carriage ride. And do not worry, the current Mrs. Duncan does not do podcasts. Anyway, thanks. What I need to know now is help with logistics. I'll hopefully be staying at the Poly with the current Mrs. Duncan and our two little ones. Just a couple of nights, I'll be in touch again, Annette. As mentioned in episode 549, I will be certainly going to Le Cellier for dinner, but on the 31st, but what would you suggest for evening entertainment? Our favorite park is the Magic Kingdom, and probably least favorite is Epcot. We do not have hopper passes, so once we're in a park, that's it for the day, which is fine with us. Matt, I think you said that if you're staying on property, you do need park entrance to eat at a restaurant in a park. Is that correct? Yes. If so, I am okay, aren't I, to spend the day in the Magic Kingdom and then go over to Epcot for dinner and fireworks? If not, would you suggest we go to Magic Kingdom, then California Grill, and fireworks instead? Well, Craig, if you don't have park hopper, you obviously can't do that.
Right.
So, if you have park hopping, yes, you can go to Epcot and do that. Otherwise, no, you can't do that.
Well, he could, if he's in Magic Kingdom and he goes to California Grill, he can come back.
Oh, sure, he go back to the Magic Kingdom,
right?
Yeah.
But not to Epcot.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep,
right.
Exactly. Well, I hope that works out. P.S. I also attached to the song I mentioned for Annette. She is so lovely, scouting for girls. I will send the email to Annette.
Scouting for girls?
The song is called, she's called, I think it's the band's name. The song, I think, is called She's So Lovely.
Oh, okay.
So I will send that email to Annette.
Way after Mike's time there.
Our next email is from Jonathan the Voice Dictor of Seattle, Washington, and Around the Mouse, All About the Mouse podcast.
Around the Mouse.
And Scopa, I think last week you mentioned something about Jonathan having a little ankle biter of his own.
Yes, Jonathan and his wife are expecting a little one, and I believe the blessed event is to happen in November.
Yes, well, Jonathan's email, I got to mention this. The subject of the email is ankle biters, or if you prefer, free beer for Len in capital letters. So I guess it's your email, Fred. Jonathan wrote, here's a quick question for you. As you may or may not be aware, my desperate mouse wife and I are planning our next trip to Walt Disney World for January 2011. I'll be running the Walt Disney World Full Marathon for Team Voice, and Amber will be along for a nice vacation. What do you suggest would be a good way to tour with a 14-month-old baby? Oh, heck, I don't really need the answer. I just wanted to brag about the fact that Amber and I are having our very first baby this year. But some suggestions are always welcome. And no, Scopa, I won't leave our baby at home. I hope you guys are well. See you on the Disney Feud very soon.
Well, it looks like I'm not going to be answering this question.
And I don't have kids, so.
Yeah, Jonathan, it depends what you're wanting to do here. I went with a 2.5-year-old once, and it was nice because it was someone else's 2.5-year-old, but we were also there, me and my then fiance, because we could provide the parents of the 2.5-year-old a break from the kid from time to time. So if you could go down there, I'm not sure if you're just going down there with your wife or you'd be going down there with perhaps your in-laws or your own parents.
Girlfriend. Yeah.
Someone, yeah, maybe even Brian. I mean, Brian could be a good babysitter probably. I'm sure he wouldn't mind. Basically, if you have some help watching the kid, it can help because 14-month-old, let's face it, he or she's going to need a break more often than not. It's not realistic to even consider the fact that you're going to go from park opening to park closing like you may be used to. So you would definitely want to keep that in mind. So I think give lots of breaks. And if you've got someone there going with you, maybe kind of some switch off thing where maybe in the evening you and your wife can have some time to yourselves to enjoy the parks and while your child naps. So, but anyway, congratulations on the new kid. Next email is from Gilbert, who's Animal King at WDWtoday.com. Also from West New York, New Jersey. Who writes, hi, Matt, Mike Newell, Mike, Pop Century Towers, Scopa, Len, the Voice Testa, and the Fabulous Annette. After stumbling upon your podcast on iTunes in February 2009, I spent the last 3 weeks catching up, listening to several months of prior shows and comparing it to a few other similarly named podcasts, and yours is one of the best. One reason you guys get my vote may be due in part to the fact that I'm the former manager of desktop publishing for Macmillan Publishing USA, the former publishers of The Unofficial Guide to Walt Disney World. Real photos of you guys on the site. Yes, we have real photos actually on our Facebook account. You go find it there. You'll see right there. Anyway, here I joined WDW Today website and chose the name Animal King because Animal Kingdom theme park gets no love from you guys on the podcast. Shame. Let me cover my base here by stating my number one favorite park is Epcot Center, however. Followed very close by Animal Kingdom. Sorry, but Disney Studios used to be my second favorite, now distant fourth, but it has since lost some of its appeal when the animation studio became an empty memorial to the fallen. I mean, fired Disney cast members who worked there. The Catwalk Bar was very cool. Do you remember the Catwalk Bar, Scopa?
Yeah, I remember that. That was the it's where Disney on Stage now, or whatever that's called.
Yeah, it's above Playhouse Disney on Stage.
When they first the Catwalk Bar had a fast food restaurant downstairs, and the stairway going up to the right at the top of the stairs there was they designed it to look like the Rose in Beauty and the Beast, I believe.
Yeah, one of the things that Gilbert did is he had a lot of great points about Animal Kingdom and everything, but there's one I really wanted to touch on because we haven't really talked about it on the show. He writes, you guys may not realize this, but this is Animal Kingdom and the Lodge, with college kids representing several African nations, truly does make Walt Disney World feel like this is a, quote, small world after all. It gives people of color a sense of connection and inclusion while hopefully providing people from all backgrounds a brief look into the sights and sounds of Africa, the birthplace of humanity. You may not have realized it, but this is a huge, not only for people of color, but for people of different backgrounds that have appreciation for the art, animals, culture, and people of Africa. As a man who is blessed with multicultural bloodlines descended from African, Carib, Indian, German grandparent on one side and a Scottish great-grandfather on the other, makes for a lot of good jokes, such as this loaded question. What country in the World Showcase is my favorite? Or my favorite joke from my German godson, sure, we get a German beer garden, do you get an entire theme park and a hotel? I think he brings up a good point, Gilbert does, about the wonderful cast members that they bring in for I notice them more at Animal Kingdom Lodge than at Animal Kingdom Theme Park, but I really feel like they really do add a lot. They're not just there because they're from these countries. They actually do know what they're talking about these countries. And I've been there for like the night vision goggles at Animal Kingdom Lodge, and they really do provide a lot of insight into the animals, and it is quite interesting to say the least.
I agree.
It's a nice addition, so I'm glad. It's not just just empty people in costumes. They actually do know their stuff. So nice.
Well, it adds to the genuine theme of the resort. If they didn't do that, it would take away from the theme.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. The genuine is a nice way of putting that, Mike. Next email's from Matt Zalett of West Jordan, Utah. We don't get too many emails from Utah here. Who writes, hey, all, thanks for the great shows and info. My wife and I are going to Walt Disney World soon, and we're staying at the Wilderness Lodge with an annual pass discount. Thanks, MouseSavers.com and the Unofficial Guide. We'll have a car, but wanted it.
That bell is really annoying. My bell is better. My bell is better, too, by the way.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Now, wait, before we go any further, here's the thing. When I ring my bell, it's nice and quiet. When Scopa rings his bell, I hear... what do you have to... what is it, in the next room? You have to reach over and grab it?
He's an amateur, Newell. He doesn't know what he's doing.
Apparently, yeah.
All right. Enough bells.
Enough about the bells.
I want to ring your bell.
We will have a car, but want to know about the boats between Wilderness Lodge and Magic Kingdom. Is it better to drive to the Ticket and Transportation Center and take a monorail or ferry, or take the boat to the Magic Kingdom and back to the Contemporary? Is it still the best, or are we going to park if we're going to park hop? With a theme park annual pass, are there any discounts on shopping? With the table, let's answer the first question first. They're staying at Wilderness Lodge. Want to know the best ways of getting to the parks here, Scopus? So let's start with the Magic Kingdom. My inclination is it's best to take the boat. What do you think?
I agree, Matt. The boat.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah. It's got to be a better option. Even if you're going to park hop, you can go from Magic Kingdom, say, and take, obviously, the monorail to Epcot, or take one of the buses to the other theme park. Yeah. So I wouldn't worry about that. Discounts with annual pass discounts. When you get an annual pass, Matt, I'm not sure if you're a new annual pass holder or not, but when you get one, if you don't have one, ask for one at the park, certainly. There's a little booklet you can get, and it has a list of all the discounts in there. And there are some decent discounts in there. I mean, obviously, some that many of us know about. There's the 10% discount at merchandise at World of Disney and Downtown Disney. There are some restaurants that offer discount to annual pass holders. Basically, whenever you're buying anything, always ask, is there an annual pass discount? It never hurts to ask. You never know. And the last question is, with the tables in Wonderland, what a dumb name, I agree, are there any discounts at counter-serviced restaurants? You guys are fun to listen to. Keep it going.
There is one. But it's the annual pass one. Do you remember when we went down last May and we were in the studios, Matt, and Len and I went up to eat. We went up to pick up a bunch of drinks for us at that fast food area towards the back, near the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Yes, at Studio. What is it? Not back. Catering company. Yes, you got it.
Right.
We got a 10% discount during the week there. Yeah, with our annual passes.
Yep, it's all in that book over there. So definitely, it's a good thing to read while you're waiting in line. I know that's what I always tend to do, assuming I'm not listening to Mouse World Radio online.
Woohoo!
Next email is from Steve. Steve, it's just from
Yellowstone?
Yo, Steve.
Not quite Newell.
Steve-O.
Right, hey, Matt, Mike, Len, and Annette.
Steve Reno.
I was listening to you guys talk.
Calm down, Scopa.
I was listening to you guys talk about the survey that you did in the unofficial guide, and I didn't notice it was geared almost entirely around dining and shopping, and thought there might be something. Maybe they're trying to determine the best way to rebuild Pleasure Island, which they said was going to be turned into a shopping and dining complex. What do you think?
Yes, it is going to be turned into a shopping
I
and
agree.
dining.
Next.
You are truly a prognosticator, Steve.
Oh, it's pretty cool. Let me get him on the show.
Sorry, Steve. We can get to that sooner. Next email is from May Lau of Toronto, Canada. Going international on you, Newell, here.
All right. Hey?
Right. Right. We have now been to Walt Disney World twice now with my two sons, ages 9 and 6. My 6-year-old is autistic and nonverbal. We've used the guest assistance card for most of the rides, and we usually get in no problem through the FastPass entrances. What do we do with those rides that have no FastPass entrance? So far, we are afraid to try shows. We're not sure whether or not if we still have to stand in line. Do you have any good tips? My son is not good with standing in line at all. Thanks in advance. Mike, a book is coming to mind. Is one coming to yours?
Yeah,
I was thinking
this is
that too.
I was just going to say it's the Open Mouse book written by Deb Comer and Deb Wills. This book will give you some really up to date tips and guidelines on where you should what attractions you may or may not want to venture into with your child. Other than Deb's book, I can't think of any other reference that I would have a lot of confidence in.
Well, I think that's a great point, Mike. And I think also you have to keep in mind is even at attractions that don't have fast passes, I think cast members are pretty accommodating and they're understanding. And certainly if you present the situation, say, look, my son is autistic, may not do well in line, I don't want to cause a scene, cast members are going to be very accommodating. I really can't imagine they're going to do anything but help you get into a situation that's going to make you comfortable and certainly help you and your family along. So always ask, kind of present the situation, but definitely get Deb's book if you don't have that, May. It's a wonderful resource. Next email is from, this is a good question for Scopa. I know he's going to have an answer to this one. It's from Jim from Bristol, Connecticut, home of ESPN and nothing else. Very true. Okay, so I've been listening to the podcast for a while now and have become very familiar with your voices. Since I don't know your faces, I wonder if I would recognize any of you if I heard your voice while I was in Disney World, for example, in line for an attraction or Dole Whip or whatever.
Yes.
So, has anyone ever recognized your voice?
Yes. Yes.
Well, actually, I forgot about. I know Scopa has, but Newell, I didn't remember it at first, but I totally know what you're talking about. Why don't you share that little story with our listeners?
Oh, I was with you, Matt. We were walking on that little bridge that connects the United Kingdom and France over at World Showcase when somebody in front of us turned around and they recognized us right away just by the voice. I don't even think they even knew what we looked like, but they happened to recognize us. And thankfully, we were only talking, smack about Scopa, so it wasn't too bad. But yes, it has happened. It's happened to me on several. It happened to me while I was online at the concierge desk over at the Beach Club during Mouse Fest at 1:45 in the morning. As a matter of fact, it happened to me. Guest checking in from Hawaii recognized my voice while I was asking for some help in mailing a package back to home. After Mouse Fest. So yeah, it has happened.
Yeah, Scope, I know it's happened to you. I think you were the first person this happened to of the four of us.
Yeah, well, his voice
happened,
is more.
Yeah, well, everyone says I have an accent. That must be it. But it's happened in attraction. It's happened in restaurants. It's happened all over the place. It's kind of weird. I remember one time I was in line at Pirates and someone turned around and said, "Are you Mike Scopa?" And afterwards, I was talking with a friend that I was walking through the parks with, and she said, "You may want to be very careful as to what you say in the theme parks because your voice may be so distinct that people will recognize it right away." So I don't talk smack about Newell as much as I used to.
He saves it for the show.
Exactly. Yeah. Next email is from Chloe from Massachusetts, who writes, "Hello, everyone. I've got a question about renewing an annual pass. If you renew the pass before it expires, does Disney add 366 days to the days remaining on the pass, or is it 366 days from the date you renew it? Hopefully you guys can get to this one." No, we didn't. But anyway,
Oh my God.
Do you have an answer?
It's from your renewal date. It doesn't matter. It's from your renewal date. Last year I renewed my annual pass runs out usually right around the 21st of today. It usually runs. It's like the last week in April, and last year I renewed it. I think I renewed it later than that. I was able to renew it, but it still reverted back to April 21st or whatever. Yeah. So you don't get extra days. No.
Yeah, they do give you a 30-day grace period beyond your expiration point. But right, Mike, even if you bought your ticket, your annual pass today, your first annual pass, and then you renewed it, let's say in 3 months from now, I don't know why you would, but you could. It would just go from your renewal date. You don't get any extra time. You don't get any less time. It just goes from that point.
Right.
Next email is from Joe of Danvers, Massachusetts, where it's just got back from the world where my wife and I stayed at the Polynesian Resort for the first time. By the way, I got to preface this email by saying that the subject of the line was lousy palm trees. I thought Newell would enjoy this email. Anyway, he writes, so he's at the Polynesian Resort. Because it was my first time, I decided to do some research on building and room locations. Len had mentioned once on a past show that some of the garden view rooms at the Polynesian had, quote, side views of the Magic Kingdom. The price of the Magic Kingdom view rooms would have been more than I could have stomached, even with an annual pass holder discount. So I cracked open my copy of the 2009 official guide to see if it was specified which buildings and rooms had any of these side views, and it did on page 148. It was very specific and listed certain rooms in the Tokelau Longhouse, so when I called Disney to book the room, I had them add my building and room preferences to the reservation. When we checked in, I saw that they were giving us room 3208 in the Tokelau Longhouse, which was the closest I've ever come to the building and floor I specified when I booked, so I was very happy. The problem was, once we got to the room and I looked over the balcony to my right, there was a cluster of palm trees past the end of the building, blocking the view of Cinderella's castle. You could see it through the palm tree leaves, but only if you looked carefully. The first thing I asked my wife was if she had packed a chainsaw. I think word got back to the Polynesian Resort management about this, quote, loophole, and they planted those stinking palm trees around there just for the sole purpose of blocking the view. My advice to those wanting a Magic Kingdom view room at the Poly, but don't want to pay the price, book a garden view room and see if you can sleaze a free upgrade out of them. With the economy the way it is right now, this would be your best time to try. That or pack the chainsaw. Just make sure it's in your checked bag and not your carry-on. Sorry, Joe. Sorry it didn't work out for you, but theoretically or technically, you did actually see the Magic Kingdom, just not quite how you had it in your mind, I'm sure. Next email is from Kent Spear of Omaha, Nebraska, who writes, can you ask Scopa what dictionary he uses to put the R on idea? Any results up? What's that?
Idea.
Anyway, he has one more question. Regarding getting to a character dining room before the park opens, how does that work? Mike, do you want to quickly explain that?
I think he was insulted.
Wait, what was that question again?
Get it for if you want to attend a character dining meal, like in
Right.
the park before it opens, like Crystal Palace at 8 a.m. How does that work?
Well, you make the ADR, and there usually is one turnstile that you would go to, probably either all the way over to the right. It's usually way over to the right, and you would just tell the cast member there that you have an ADR, and they would usually have a list of guests who have ADRs for restaurants before the park opens. I know they do that with the Princess, the Storybook Princess thing at Norway. They also do it they used to do it for Breakfastaurus, and they'll do it for Crystal Palace. So there's just, I would say, go all the way over to the rightmost turnstile and talk to a cast member there.
Cool. Next email is from Brian, who writes, I was going to do this as a comment, but think it might be too many double entendres for the general public. Of course, it started out as, quote, Beauty and the Beast, though it might have been one man's dream and wishes to take Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, and then the backlot tour was merely a journey into imagination filled with flights of wonder that sounds dangerous, because the laugh floor revealed that the playful spot was merely a small world. Though, of course, if you were discussing Scopa's honeymoon, it was Lucky the Dinosaur.
What?
He's talking about my
Boy,
honeymoon.
jokes are really good tonight, huh?
Guess you had to be there. Sorry, Brian. Next email is from Todd Whirl, who writes, this podcast of Coronado Springs was very helpful to listen to. What I liked most about this episode is the candidness in your report of this resort and what I would have experienced a vacation at this resort. I appreciate the honesty you provided in this episode, and that is one of the reasons your podcast stands out. You know, it kind of hit me as to why I listen to your podcast. We don't get to go down to Walt Disney World a whole lot every 5 or 6 years, so I can experience the parks through you guys and learn what rides to expect and good places to eat. You keep people like me from going crazy, but by helping us recollect not only for our past trips to Disney World, but what we have to look forward to in the future. Keep up the good work. P.S. It also helps to be able to share with my wife that there are other people in this world that are even more infatuated with the parks than me. Glad we can help you with that.
Thank you, sir.
Next email is from Tanya of Indiana, where it's, I've just booked for the first time with a travel agent. Yes, one of the fabulous Annette Owens gals. What can I expect from this experience? Are there benefits to using a travel agent as opposed to doing things yourself? Thanks. Love the show.
Yes.
I do. I mean, look, let's be honest. First of all, MEI Mouse Fan Travel is obviously a sponsor of this podcast. But that being said, I've used a number of travel agents, both MEI and Mouse Fan Travel and other ones. And what I think makes a good Disney travel agent stand out to me is that they really do make your life easier. Look, I booked, I don't know how many trips to Walt Disney World. Scopa, you've done it. Newell, you've done it. Uh-huh. After a while, calling Disney to make your hotel reservation and make your ADRs just isn't that exciting anymore. I understand I can do it. I understand it. You know, some people, it's cool. It's fun to, do the whole trip planning thing. But quite honestly, I'd rather focus on like what parks I'm going to go to, what attractions I want to do, where I want to, I've decided where I want to eat, but have the extra travel agent have to deal with the phone calls. I really do believe that. I really don't like doing that stuff. It's just, I'd rather do other things. You know what I mean? And to that end, I really do enjoy it. So for that, you're going to have a partner in doing that. If you're new to, Tanya, I'm not sure how new you are to Disney World or lack thereof. Maybe you're a veteran by means, but I think it's going to work to your advantage in terms of making your trip planning easier. Newell, is that kind of what I said? Kind of what your experience has been?
Oh, absolutely. I also like the fact that they're up on the latest discounts and latest codes that we might not be aware of, but they certainly are, and they're able to get those specials, if there is any at the time.
Oh no, they're supposed to. I mean, that's what's great about it. I'm glad you brought that up, Mike, because here's what happens oftentimes. You book a trip, you get whatever rate you get, fine. But if there's a special rate that comes out for, I don't know what it might be. Sometimes Disney just puts out special rates. They'll apply the rate automatically for you. You don't have to do that. Otherwise, you'd have to call Disney back and make a new reservation or apply to your, whatever it may be. It's a pain in the butt. I don't like to, it's just something else you don't have to do. They can do that for you. I was just going to say, the other thing is a lot of times, like Mouse Fan Travel, what I like about them is that they have a lot of group events. And what happens is if they've got group events, even if I'm not part of the group, if I'm going down the same time, I need a hotel stay for the same time. I'll get applied in there, and usually the group rates have some pretty good rates, because if you get a certain amount of rooms in a room block or something, Disney will give you a break on the price somewhat. So again, it only works to my advantage basically, and It costs me nothing.
I was just going to say, there's no fee, there's no extra charge, so you're not losing anything.
Yeah, I hate to sound like a shill or something for travel agents or anything, but I really do feel like they actually do. The ones I've dealt with, they have done a very good job, and certainly, I think Scopa, you've been using travel agents long before the two of us have.
Well, believe it or not, I booked everything myself for the first 28 years that I went to Walt Disney World, and then I started using a travel agent. One of the things I wanted to mention is that one benefit that a lot of us tend to overlook is that vacation planners like Annette or any person in that position establishes relationships with the cast members down there. So when they call up, they've established they've got a history with them. So many times they can do things for you, the client, that you cannot do because they can say to a cast member, "Hey, this client needs this. How can you help me?" So that's a real key that I think we all forget.
Yeah, I mean, there are some people there. I know a buddy of mine, Rich. He always tells me. I always try to tell him, look, you got to do the travel agent thing. You've done it 1,000 times. You don't have to You don't have to prove it to anyone else that you know your stuff about Disney World. And he likes doing. He's that kind of personality that he likes doing it himself, and that's fine. Some people just are like that, but I really do believe. I mean, you hear it in the emails. People, generally are happy with the experiences they have there. So, hopefully that'll work out for you. Next email is from Marie Harvey, who writes, I've enjoyed listening to recent podcast of yours where you discussed where you'd eat in the park for table service, counter service, and a snack. I'm aware that the menus for various restaurants are available on allears.net, but wasn't able to find a listing of snacks offered through the dining plan. Where can I find a list of the various snacks you can get with the dining plan at each park?
Wow.
That is this is a good question because, Marie, it used to be when the dining plan first came out, I remember anything under $4, that was the rule. That was on the dining plan, and any food item, obviously, you can't buy like toys for under $4. But if you had anything under $4, it was a snack option. And then I think they kind of started taking a few things out of it. I think that's still generally the rule. Any food item like an apple or water, candy bar anything under $4 is generally what you can use for the snack option. I'm not sure. Are you guys familiar with any resources that might list specifically?
There may be something online, Matt. If so, we'll put it in the show notes. I'll check through my resources, but I think that there may be something online that we could point our listener to.
Absolutely. Next email is from Kate of... Oh, God. What is with these towns? We're not... No more Indian names, okay? If your town is based off in India, just go to the nearest city. She's from Washington, and she's Tiki Kate on the message boards. Hoo-ah! Kate writes, I was just listening to episode 469 where someone wrote in and asked about the Main Street Electrical Parade. I was in Disneyland in May 2008, and they have been running that parade in the California Adventure Park. So unless they've dropped it since then, that's where it is. That's good to know. I mean, it is still out there, so theoretically it could come back. I don't anticipate that being the case. Where they're going to bring that back anytime soon. I'm not sure what you guys think, but I think they're fine with they just brought in some new entertainment over here, so I just don't see that being the case. But I don't know. I don't plan things out. We just do a podcast about emails that are 6 months and late. So, all right, it's time for the last question of the day. That means Mr. Newell picks a question. I give him 3 questions, and he picks one to answer today. The rest go back into the email queue to be answered in another 6 months. So, Mr. Newell, are you ready?
Bring it on.
All right. We got here. Let's see what we got. All right. First question is... okay. Om Nom Nom. What to do with a park ticket? I don't know. OMNOM. Om Nom Nom. What to do with a park ticket? That's the subject. I just read the subjects. Om Nom Nom. What to do with a park ticket?
Om Nom Nom.
4 listener questions. Mosaico. MOSAICO. Or failed.
Let's go with failed. It's the only thing I understand.
Thank you. Thank you. God, I thought we were doing never mind.
One day we'll figure out what those emails really mean.
Yeah, maybe.
Our last email of the day, brought to you by Mike Newell, is from Brett Ward of New Hampshire.
Brett.
Right here. Here's a failed attraction for you. That awful roller coaster in Dino Land. It's ugly. The queue stinks. The ride is awful. They try to cram 4 people into one car. My wife cracked her ribs on it and complained for a month afterwards, and it loads 8 people an hour. Here's another one. Everyone will hate me for this. Winnie the Pooh. You don't replace a classic with an attraction that at best breaks even. Pooh isn't bad, but I was very disappointed by it. The entire time, I kept on thinking to myself, they got rid of Mr. Toad for this? What are your thoughts on Winnie the Pooh at Magic Kingdom Scopa?
Oh, boy.
Uh-oh.
Do I hear the can of beans opening?
See you later.
Mr. Toad's Wild Ride was a classic, and it's just too bad that it had to be replaced rather than they being able to put Winnie the Pooh up. The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh somewhere else. I think that the Winnie the Pooh attraction has some good points and has some not so good points. I think that in some cases the Imagineering is pretty cool. I think that in other parts of the ride it's like 1970s, and it sometimes bothers me that you go from 1990s or 2000 technology to the 1970s. So that's the only issue I have with that ride.
Yeah, I think there's a couple ways to look at it. I think first of all, Mike, I think you brought up a great point. I think that for kids, those under the age of 6 or so, they love Winnie the Pooh. And I've been on there with many toddlers, and they love it. I mean, it's just great. Some are a little scared by some parts of it, but like, the freakish, the elephant part. But other than that, I mean, it really. They love this stuff. So in that regard, I understand that. That being said, if you look at it at a grand scale for everyone involved, so, toddlers, teenagers, adults, grandparents, I really don't think it's as good as Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. But then again, it was also a weird ride. I mean, you literally went to hell in the ride, which is interesting.
And back.
And back. I think it benefited from being one of those classic attractions, something that's been around for such a long time. It's always hard to get rid of those kinds of attractions. I don't know. I don't really feel one way or the other towards Winnie the Pooh, to tell you the truth. I wasn't that big of a fan of Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, and that may show my age somewhat. I know that, Mike, both of you had more time with the older attractions. Perhaps you have a different affinity for it. Newell, if there's someone who loves old attractions, it's you. I never heard your opinion though on Mr. Toad's Wild Ride.
If I could have been down there during the protest, I would have been there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That was back in the earlier days of the internet when they getting that group together, and they were pretty successful. They got a nice crowd. But yeah, I mean, there's nothing you can do with Progress. I mean, I would have loved for them to keep Horizons, but that had to go, and World of Motion had to go. There's just things change, and right now we're seeing the change of Space Mountain, and that's who knows what that's going to bring. I'm assuming it's going to bring good, but you never know. So yeah, I've come to deal with change, and those classic attractions going away and them coming out with new stuff, and it's just part of going down there and experiencing something new.
Absolutely. Well, that's it for us today. Don't forget that this episode of WDW Today has been sponsored by Emmy and Mouse Fan Travel. And we mentioned earlier my friend Rich, who doesn't like to use travel agents, but who does use travel agents? Masayo. And look how happy she is. She giggles for 20 minutes straight. So clearly she enjoys her experience with travel agents, and so can you. Emmy and Mouse Fan Travel can help you plan your trip to Walt Disney World and make it that much easier on yourself. Visit them online at mousefantravel.com. Want to find our older episodes, read our show notes, or send us your comments, visit the WDW Today website at wdwtoday.com. For Len Testa, Mike Scopa, and Mike Newell, I'm Matt Hochberg. We'll see you on the next question show.
Stupid Judy, stupid energy.
This has been a production of Mouse World Radio.